Step on up, sit down, twist off that bottle top or crack open that can, and welcome to Porch Matters. This is Terry Cagle coming to you from my back porch. Yes, sir, yes, ma'am, the name of this show is authentic. On Porch Matters, our saying is this: big issues or just a friendly conversation. No topic is off limits. We take pride in being able to talk about anything with each other in an open discussion. Open discussion is one of the only ways to learn. Your perspective could be changed. You could change the perspective of others. Friends and family, welcome back to another episode of Porch Matters. I'm glad you're here. Sure is chilly tonight. This should be the last cold snap here this spring. God, I hope so. I'm about ready to start complaining about it being too hot. But there again, sure would have to fight off a whole lot more bugs whenever it warms up. I don't know. Maybe it just needs to stay just like this. Hope I didn't throw y'all off too bad Monday morning whenever you woke up and seen a bonus episode of Porch Matters on your phone. Appreciate Justin Heights for coming on the show again so we can talk about a little bit of wrestling. Try to catch up a little bit. Hope y'all enjoyed that. Releasing the show Sunday night for Monday kind of got me thinking. And I'd really like a little bit of feedback from y'all as well. Do y'all enjoy getting the show on Friday or getting it on Monday morning? Was it a little bit more beneficial for you? Let me know, because I'm thinking about changing the release date. Just going to be upfront and honest with you. So if you like it where it is, let me know. If Monday would be better for you, let me know that as well. On this episode, I welcome Jeff and Josh from underground Birmingham to the porch. They explore old mines in and around the Birmingham area. Old coal mines, old iron ore mines, old limestone mines. They're on Facebook, on Birmingham Underground, and I also think they have a YouTube channel as well. Birmingham Underground. They go in, they record what they see, they explain things as they go along. It's really entertaining. And I really enjoyed this conversation. It kindly goes off the rails pretty much from the start, and it was very educational and very entertaining for me. I really enjoyed having these guys on the porch, and I hope they come back here pretty soon. Without further ado, let's get started. Josh and Jeff from underground Birmingham, welcome to the porch, and how are y'all doing today?
Hey, doing pretty good, buddy. How are you?
Any better? I don't guess fine. I can stand it.
Good.
It's been a great day.
So guys, we are actually doing this meeting via Zoom, and Jeff is about 416 years old. So, we might have a lot of talking over each other because Jeff is like mind blown with Zoom.
Technology. What'd you say?
It just amazes him.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Josh. What did he say? Now, don't treat me that bad. I am old, but I was an electronic technician with AT&T for 30 years, so I know a little.
My apologies.
I know what an ohm is.
You're doing better. You're doing better than most folks, if you know what that is.
Right.
He's probably already getting ready to hit the dump button and just send us on.
Not at all. But we're recording gold right now. This is good stuff.
So the porch, how did you come across that name? So I guess we're going to just take over and start interviewing you. How did you come up with the porch? Where does that come from?
Well, I'll be more than happy to answer that question for you. We'll go. How did Hannibal Lecter put it in that Silence of the Lambs movie? Quid pro quo. I think that's how it is. A question for a question. Yeah. Why not? I was doing another podcast with a couple of friends of mine called Two Guys in a Podcast, and they added me in, and we had talked about changing the name because at that time, it didn't really make much sense to have three guys on the show that was called Two Guys in a Podcast. Not knocking them, just stating facts, And we got to sit around and was basically just trying to come up with whatever we could come up with. And I found an article that was, I can't remember the author of it, but the article was titled, like Bring Back the Front Porch. And he was talking about how in old days, a generation or two back, whenever we had stuff that we had to talk about, 9 times out of 10, the ladies always went to the kitchen table. Most of the men always went to the porch. And
that's true.
And the porch was, in the article, the gateway between the public and your private world. There was always that little area right there. And I just read the article and I was just like, porch matters. Porch matters. That sounds like an awesome thing, because I like talking about different things. I like talking about different topics. And one of the main things about the show is just a small conversation or a big topic. Nothing is off limits. So that's where the name of it comes from.
Well, that reminds me of growing up when I was a kid, and we'd ride up to Walker County to Jasper to visit my aunt, and we would sit out on her front porch. And she had that porch that went all the way across the front, had the washing machine sitting out there, but had rocking chairs, and we would all just sit on the front porch and look out across Highway 269 going up to Jasper and watch cars go by. So I can agree with porches. Yeah.
I'm from Walker County, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
I live in a little community called Dilworth. I'm in between, geographically, between Summerton and Sipsey.
Okay. Well, don't hold it against.
All out there.
As a friend of mine said one time, whenever he heard the trailer and everything for the show, he said, "Man, you can go 0 to cornbread in a half a second."
That's right.
I love it.
So since we're going quick pro quo, where did underground Birmingham come from?
Oh, well, take the step, or you want me to?
I can start, and because I started it 400 years ago.
At least.
When, as you say, but underground Birmingham came from a passion I developed back when I was a teenager, growing up on the south side of Birmingham. I lived about a mile and a half west of Vulcan Park, and the old Mineral Railroad grade was still up behind our house that ran through there, and as kids we'd go up there and hike on it and ride our bicycles, and we'd go down to Vulcan and visit and all that. And as along the way, we started noticing these concrete foundations, and we chased them up in the woods. And on the other end of some of those things were old iron ore mines. And so as 13 years old, we started exploring iron ore mines. And for me, it just got better, well, or worse and worse, depends on how you look at it. It became a passion and addiction. And I've been doing that for 50 something years now. And so that's really, it's about me exploring the mines as a kid, but also about learning the history and trying to teach it to other people who have grown up since then that have maybe never heard about that history and don't even know that it exists. So that's my roots in it. And then Josh joined in, and he started into it, and he actually came up with the idea of starting the Facebook page, and so we just sort of determined we might call it Underground Birmingham, and then that's sort of where the name came from.
Yeah, originally it was going to be Birmingham Underground, but that name was actually taken by a page that has like 3 followers, and I could not ever get in touch with the guy to see if we could have the name. So we just flipped it and did Underground Birmingham. Right. And we started, I think, 2017 with the page.
Yeah,
a couple of years before, we were documenting and exploring.
Yeah, I met Josh about a year before that when he contacted me after seeing some of my photos, but I had to put him through proper, law enforcement background checks and do a thing to see what his motives were, so that we could protect the historic assets of what I was getting ready to show him. And he's managed to pass all of that. So here we are.
It's amazing what a pinky promise can do.
Right?
All it was a pinky promise. Hey, you pinky promise you won't tell this location?
For those, for
But
those,
no, you know,
for those in
Jeff
the
has been
audience that
into a
might
lot of,
not be aware of what a pinky promise is, that's old school. Well, you used
that's
to
old
take each
school.
other's pinky and shake it, and anytime you made a pinky promise, you could not break that promise whatsoever.
Absolutely.
Yeah, see, now y'all are the young generation. Y'all are the wimps, though. See, now when I was a kid, it was blood brothers. You would cut your fingers and you would touch the ends together. So, I mean, you know, like society's getting soft, man. Y'all need to catch up.
I
Jeff,
couldn't agree more with you.
But if Jeff cut his finger, you know, to do that now, I mean, he would bleed out as old as he is.
Yeah, you ain't on blood thinner, are you?
No, and I always carry a roll of electrical tape and a McDonald's napkin. So if I get cut, I can wrap it.
Hey, that right there is good survival instincts right there. I mean, that's just like carrying a pocket knife, a screwdriver, a pair of battery cables in your truck. You never know when you're going to need it.
No, and I literally do that. So that's because I've worked in the forest for 10 or 12 years, and you never knew when you were going to be out there and slip and cut your hand or something on the saw or whatever. Right. So yeah, I do that. I mean, that's real.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. You also, you know, especially if you're out in the forestry and everything, you never know when nature might call and you have to go do number 2 and forget a roll of toilet paper.
Yep.
Yeah. Or know what poison ivy looks like anyway.
Absolutely.
Right.
So
we're getting a little deep now. We're losing track here. We need to kind of get back.
But you know some of my listeners are not necessarily from this area. If you would, let's dive into a little bit of the history since you're talking about Birmingham Underground Birmingham rather. Sorry, I got both names plugged for you just in case. I'm doing
hey, no worries, man.
But a lot of people don't understand that the geographic area of where the city of Birmingham is from was huge in iron ore and steel and everything. That coal, iron ore, and steel is the things that actually made Birmingham big back in the day.
Right. There were actually 3 minerals. You had the iron ore, the coal, and the limestone.
Yes, sir.
That were all centrally located to this area, and it's one of the very few spots on the planet where that happens, where these things are within about 5 miles apart. There's a place over in England where they actually have the same situation, and from my understanding from a geologist is that is actually part of the Appalachian chain over there, so it could be possibly part of the same mountain range. But we had those 3 unique things here in Birmingham that you had to have to make iron, and so that made us competitive with the northern iron markets. Now, our iron ore wasn't quite as high quality as what they had in Pennsylvania and those areas up there, but because they had to haul the materials hundreds of miles to get it to the plants, and we only had to haul it 5 miles to get it to the plant, we could use more of a less quality grade and actually make a equal or better product to what they were making up there. So that's really the reason that Birmingham is here. We were not based on a major river like you would have had in an agricultural society where they used river travel to get their products to market. So the only thing that would draw people to this valley was the minerals, and we're blessed with those. And actually, downtown Birmingham is a valley now, but it used to be the top of Red Mountain way back, 2 or 3 years ago, before all the runoff and started washing it out and everything. But it used to be one solid mountain, and when it eroded away, now you have Red Mountain, which they refer to as East Red Mountain, and then you have on the north side of Birmingham going out through Bessemer what they call West Red Mountain. And then you have coal on both sides of those, and then you have in the middle where the city is where the limestone's located, and it actually runs all the way from Trussville down through Birmingham, Helena, Pelham, and just running south in that direction. So, but we're blessed with minerals, and that is what caused Birmingham to be founded here.
Yes, sir. I've said something on 2 or 3 podcasts about how big coal was in this area. I cut my teeth in a coal mine, stockpiling and everything, especially up in where I'm at. Walker County, Fayette, Tuscaloosa. According to the Alabama history book that I was taught in high school or in junior high or whatever, at one point in time, those 3 counties would go 1, 2, 3 on a national stage as far as production and everything goes.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, basically, anywhere you can throw a rock, you're going to hit a mine.
Yes, sir.
That's all right.
That's like where I live.
Yeah,
right.
you had.
Go ahead, sir. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you go ahead. You're the boss here, so.
Well, you're my guest, so. But where I currently live right now, I am totally surrounded. Just about Walker County, 9 out of is just about one solid strip pit. But where I live geographically right now, there is an old mine that goes all the way around the perimeter of where I live. And I mean, I have childhood memories of hearing the siren and everything going off whenever they'd put off 2 to 3 shots a day. We'd always have fun with it and come up with different types of games and stuff to play around with and have the house shake.
Yep.
But go ahead and please continue what you was going to say.
Well, we've been doing quite a bit of exploring up in that area lately. As I say, I spent the first part of my life more or less investigating iron ore mines, but the last 2 years we started to spread out into coal. And that's one of the things we found with the Warrior coal fields in the north and the Cahaba and Coosa coal fields in the south. Birmingham is just totally surrounded. Like Josh said, you can't throw a rock without, or spit without hitting a coal property somewhere, especially up around Sipsey and Sayre and Dora and Summerton and Cordova. I mean, those places are just literally covered with drift mines, because you not only had the major corporations of U.S. Steel, Sloss, Woodward, Gulf States, you had hundreds of independent little coal companies. And that's where my mother's family came in. The O'Rears in Jasper, they had O'Rear Coal Company, and they had some mines in Drifton, Alabama, which is not too far from you. But yeah, I mean, coal, this is a huge coal area, and there's only a few coal mines still operating, but the potential here is still very great.
Yes, sir. Anytime the coal price fluctuates, after Drummond found out that wonderful thing called mineral rights, that from everything that I've read, there's 3 main owners of mineral rights in this state: Drummond Coal Company, Alabama Power, and the University of Alabama. And anytime, and the way, I mean, I could be wrong, please correct me, but Drummond found a way to get around the unions, and then they started, subcontracting out their mineral to different mines and everything, and they were able to hire non-union people, and that's what busted the unions around here. But at one point in time, United Mine Workers was the place to work. That was the organization that you wanted to be in. My granddaddy, as you mentioned, the mine in Sayre, he was number 1 on the seniority list for a long time. I think he was one of the few that was there whenever it opened and all the way to the day it closed. He ended up finishing out his time at Berry. My other granddad, my mother's father, he actually spent time in the mines over here in Dilworth. And he used to tell me stories about how he'd have to crawl around, and he was pretty much on his belly all day.
That's true.
So, a lot of people don't understand how hard a work that coal mining actually used to be back in the day.
Absolutely. I mean, hell, we know exactly how that is. Just trying to chase out some of those, headers and slopes, and just the short. I mean, you've got some areas that have maybe 8, 9, 10 inches. You're, like you said, you're on your hands and knees, crawling on your stomach. There is no way I could ever do that. So, that's one thing that we try to do is, we try to highlight and, let everyone understand what these guys went through and, to build basically an entire city and to provide for their family. And, it's just, we try to pay respect to the history as well as the past, former, current, future, all those miners. Cause I mean, that's a very, very hard job.
It goes back to what I think it was you said earlier, talking about how I know you were making a joke, but there's a lot of truth in that statement that you made, how we were soft.
Yeah.
I know, like
Absolutely.
I said, I know it was a joke, but at the same time, there is a ton of truth in that, because I'll be honest with you, some of the stories that my granddaddy told me, I'll go ahead and tell you, I ain't doing it unless I have to.
Absolutely. Look, I pitched a baseball game with a broken hand. I've torn a hamstring running a marathon, completed the marathon. As I've gone through a lot of injuries and a lot of pain.
Right.
And I would take that every time over seeing what I see in the mines working there. There's just no way. I'm just astounded by, what those guys were able to do.
Same here. I've had my share of stuff too. And my dad told me a story because my granddaddy wanted to get my dad a job down there. Either that or my dad had talked about it, and he was just trying to scare him off, one of the two. But he told me the story about how he loaded up in that little wooden carriage, and they just wound him on down. All he heard was creaks and pops and everything like that. Whenever they finally got down there to the bottom, he didn't stay long. He couldn't stand it. He said, I got to go. And he said that was the first and only time he ever went down in a mine. And he said, I'll never do that again, even if I have to do stuff that I don't really want to do,
Right.
To put it nice.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, it takes a special person to do it.
It does.
My grandfather and both of my grandfathers were actually involved in coal. They had the O-Rears in Jasper, and then you had my grandfather in Hazard, Kentucky. And so my mother on this, so I'm an adopted kid, so I got like 6 families, So when I say mother twice, you're going to go, this guy's a nut. But really, it's just a family thing. But my birth father and grandfather in Hazard, Kentucky were coal miners at Columbus Coal in a little town called Alace. And my birth mother would tell me stories about my father, that grandfather, that he was short. And so they put him in all of those tight places where he had to crawl. And so he spent most of his time on his hands and knees crawling through those 24-inch coal seams up there on his stomach, hacking that stuff out. So I couldn't imagine doing it unless I was working for one of these companies today that's using continuous miners or long wall mining. But pick and shovel, no, I'd have to just back out of that.
Well,
absolutely.
Back in the day, Mine Safety and Health Administration didn't exist. And we also, as much as I talk about how I wouldn't do it, you also got to put yourself in the context of the times too. You either did that, or you stayed at home and farmed. So,
right.
At the time, coal mining was the job to have around here,
right.
Especially because it's the one that paid the most. Even though it was the most dangerous, it still paid the most.
Yeah, and then sometimes you had to deal with mules. They had a lot of mules in the mines to pull the mine cars around if the mines were tall enough to do that.
Right.
And so it would have been a very interesting time to see if I ever develop a time machine. That's where I'm going, back to that period to see how things were.
Jeff, back in that period.
No, don't come on.
103.
Yeah, that's right. I've already been there. I should know.
Yep. You were there before, during, and after. But no, Jeff and I, we always give each other a hard time. But when you do the things that we do going into these abandoned mines, and we want to stress to your listeners, your audience, what we do is extremely stupid. It is extremely dumb. We do take precautions the best we can. But look, these things were not designed. These are not caves. They were not designed to stand forever. They were designed to extract the mineral and then collapse in on itself.
Exactly.
So what we're going in, sometimes 150 years old, and it hasn't been inspected, serviced, no upgrades, nothing for over 100 years in some of these things. So these are death traps. It's just like Jeff said, it's a passion, it's an addiction, and to showcase and try to bring that history for the majority of the people that will never be able to see that. That's, because everyone here has some sort of connection to an ancestor, unless you're an implant person. Everybody has somebody that worked in the mines, whether it be the father, grandfather, whomever. So, that's what we're trying to do is, just try to showcase that history, that these guys built an entire city on.
If they didn't work in the mines, they worked in the iron centers at TCI or Woodward or Sloss, one of those manufacturing facilities. So everyone seemed to have at least one family member in that type of job situation. And like Josh was saying about going in the mines, it's not really a smart thing to do. My mother used to spank me when I was a child, my adoptive mother, and tell me not to do it, but it didn't do any good. So she eventually quit spanking me. But I was exploring iron ore mines, and there is a big difference between the two, iron ore and coal. Coal has so many more gases, black damp. It has all kinds of things that you can't smell that will sneak up on you, and by the time you realize it, it's too late.
Yes, sir.
Iron ore mines are still dangerous, but you have a potential for low oxygen levels, but you don't have to worry about all of the gases and things like that. But you could still get crushed from something falling off of the ceiling. So I would say, no, do not go in the mines. I do it. I don't know. I blame my birth mother and my adoptive mother's parents for genetics. Since all my family were coal miners, I just sort of have this draw. If I see a hole in the ground, I want to see what's in it. And but I tend to stay away from coal a bit more than Josh. I kind of let him have that. You always need somebody on the outside anytime you go in a mine. So I default to Josh when we go to coal mines, and I become the outside guy. But I would not recommend to anyone that you go in an old mine. It's just really not safe.
Well, speaking of mines and everything, and you just kindly touched on where I was wanting to go. What are y'all safety precautions and procedures and everything? How do y'all go about exploring? Do you make sure people outside know where you're at? What happens if you get lost down there?
Well, when I first started 400 years ago, right, Josh?
Yep.
When I first started at 13 years old, that was the days when you went outside to play, and Mom didn't say stay in the yard; she said stay within a mile of the house.
Right.
So I was on that mountain a lot of times with my friends, and a lot of times alone, and sometimes people didn't know where we were. Now, when I grew up and got a little more responsible, I would tell somebody. When I met my wife and we got married, I would leave her a map. On the map, I would show her the location I would be, and I would take a flag, and I would stick the flag in the opening wherever I decided to go in. So if I didn't come home, they could come to that area, find the flag, and they'd know where to look. And then later on, 40 years later, I met Josh, and I let Josh become my co-partner in this so that we would know where we are. Still, we're telling wives and friends where we are, how to get there. but Josh became part of my safety equipment, and then I would let him go first. And if he didn't pass out, I would follow him. Now, since then we have replaced those though, because we've gone over to the Mine Safety Health Administration office. We've talked to several different companies, mine safety engineers around town with Warrior Met, with some of the other companies, and have talked to them about mine safety. And of course, the first thing they say is, don't do it. What are you even doing it for? No.
Right.
But they've told us what kind of meters that we need for the best chance to survive. And so we do everything that we can to try to be safe as possible when we go do this. And, that's about all we can do. People are always asking us or telling us you could get seriously hurt or die. And we don't want to seem arrogant, or anything about it, but we have studied it some, and we have the general designs of how the mines should look inside and things like that. So we take the most precaution we can when we do go in a mine. It's not perfect. We could still die, but we try. That's all, that's all we can do.
And the thing about it is we could still die on the way going there in the car,
You must have been,
You
must have been reading my mind, because that's exactly what I was fixing to say.
People that have other, there are people that have other extreme hobbies, mountain climbing, rappelling, jumping out of airplanes. There's 100 different hobbies out there that people could potentially die from. And so I don't want to be flippant about it, but this is just another hobby. It's different, but everything has inherent risk. Just telling your wife no could get you killed. So, you gotta, there's chances of danger all around, and you just have to weigh those dangers against what could happen. And I realize that death is very serious and could happen, but you do what I can. That's all I can say.
That's one hobby that I never understood. I'm sorry, I didn't
jumping out of a plane.
Yeah, I never understood jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. I never did. Another one I never understood was golf. I don't know if y'all are golf enthusiasts, but I've never understood golf.
Oh, well, since I spent so much time hiking, golf is good for me because I knock the ball out in the woods half the time. So when I do, I explore a little while I'm looking for the ball.
See, the thing with me, I've always been, an adrenaline junkie. I've always, since I was able to walk, I always just enjoyed the thrill, enjoyed the rush, enjoyed pushing the boundaries and just, seeing what the limits were. Look, I've jumped out of a plane before. I've gone, miles underground before. It's just, it's something about that adrenaline that just, you can't really replace it with anything else. A lot of the reasons, and Jeff will tell you, I'll push the boundaries a lot more than he will.
Yes. I
shouldn't do it. But I try to do it as safely as possible, just like the video that I uploaded today. That was one of those, I should have got the hell out of there, as soon as I looked at it. But I
agree.
I agree too. I was watching that before we hit the record button.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, Josh is much more a risk taker than I am, especially with the mines. And Josh is probably the best friend that I've got around because I know he's watching my back when we go out into the mines. Absolutely. And explore. And he'll carry my pack out if I need him to, since I'm so old. But he does do things that I think are a little over the line. And I've told him before, I said, look, if you go in that coal mine and you don't come back out in 45 minutes, I'm sorry, I am not coming in to look for you, but I will call 911 when I get home. So,
Well,
You
after
know,
400 something years experience like you have, as he keeps alluding to, well, that's that wisdom that you've acquired over the years.
But look, I mean, we've been in some hairy situations underground. I mean, we've had people, a couple of people that have broken off in the pack. They've got lost. So you have to basically trust someone with your life when you're underground, because if something happens, you have to depend on that person.
Well,
Jeff is one that I know that I can.
Without digging into too much, you tell us something about those little hairy details if you can, without naming names or whatever, to protect the innocent or the guilty or whatever.
Well, I'll let Josh tell the story, but I do want to say, though, that when we go in, and that's another reason that you talk to people before you take someone with you, so that you kind of have an understanding of what they're going to do and how they're going to react.
Exactly.
But the biggest rule of all when you're going in a mine is you have a partner and you stay with that partner. You do not get out of sight of one another. And generally, if there's more than one group, you try to keep the groups at least within visual distance of your lights. But this person that particular day that wandered off and got lost, he failed to follow that rule, and he did not stay with his partner. And he got down in there and got turned around because it kind of all looked the same. And I'll just let Josh tell the rest of that. But that's the main thing. You've got to follow the rules if you're going to go do this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that was, that's pretty much it. I mean, it was about a 4-hour search and rescue. Well, not really rescue, but I mean, it was about a 4-hour search. When you're under there, I mean, this was a mine that we had never explored before. So I mean, we haven't had a chance to map it out. We didn't really have an official map from the company either.
Right.
And it was just a scary situation. I mean, you can't find the guy. You're on your last set of batteries. You're way in this mine. You basically are hoping you haven't got turned around looking for the guy. You can't yell, because you yell, I mean, your voice just is absorbed by the walls, or it just echoes through all the chambers. And we found him. He was fine. It was just a scary situation. And I mean, it just highlights, how you have to fully trust your partner, because you do not know what's going to happen in these things.
For those of us that are listening that may not have ever heard of a coal mine, or never had anybody that's ever been in one in their family or whatever, most of those mines, even your iron ore mines and everything, please correct me if I'm wrong, they're usually somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.5 miles to 2 miles deep on average. And all of all the turns and everything pretty much look the same.
Yeah, but when you're going down into the old iron ore mines that we go into, they're basically were laid out like streets. You would put in a main slope, then every 100 feet you'll turn off a right and a left-hand turn off of that main slope. And you'll continue that pattern as you continue to go deeper into the ground, and they number them as you're going in. So as you're walking down the slope, you'll see where they've got one R on the right and one L on the left, so that you can keep up in the main slope with how far down in the mine you are. The problem is when you get off onto those headings and you start back into there's not any more numbering. So every time they'll do a breakthrough from one heading to the next, it creates a pathway and a chamber. And all of it, like you say, all of those little things down through there look the same. Yeah. But it's still basically in a pattern laid out. So if you go down in iron ore, the iron ore here is on a 20-something degree slope going down. So it's, I'm going to say it's not hard to get lost, but it's a little harder to get lost, because if you're going down the hill and you turn right and you get in there and get confused, you always know you got to go up to get out. Right. And if you turned right off of the slope, you need to look up and turn right again and that takes you back to the main slope. But when they go after they've mined those areas out, they'll come back and rob all of the pillars, and it'll leave smaller pillars that are just, like you say, it's a honeycomb. It's hard to keep your sense of direction, and that's what happened to this guy that time. Fortunately, he just kind of decided to sit down and not wander around, and we finally found him. Now, coal mines are similar to that, same design. Now, I can't speak because I've never really been into a lot of coal mines, but from maps that we have of the coal mines, they're similarly laid out in that same type of pattern. But it can get very confusing very quickly, especially if you get a little bit panicky and start to lose control. And so that's where the big danger is that you'll get panicky, then you don't know what to do, and you make a bad choice.
And look, the thing about it is, what people don't understand, you can close your eyes right now, and you can shut them as tight as you can in a pitch black closet, and it doesn't compare to the darkness that's in these mines. Mm-hmm. So if you lose your light, if your batteries are gone, I mean, your Jeff takes about 30 flashlights in there.
Right.
If you lose your light with the ceilings that you're walking on, the paths, you're done. There's no finding your way out. If you lose your light, you're done.
Old school miners used to talk about how their best friend was their lantern.
Yep.
Yeah, it is true. Now, I don't actually carry 30, but I do carry 5. I carry 2 headlamps, and I carry 3 flashlights, and I have 2 sets of backup batteries for each one of those lights. Plus, we'll put out light sticks as we go down through the tunnels, glow sticks, so that we can look back and see the last one. And so we're never really out of sight of something that can direct us out. So,
and also, also the glow sticks, we do have a time limit on when we're supposed to be out of these things. And, the glow sticks, will last for 12, 18, 24 hours. So if we don't come out in that set time frame, all the rescue people have to do, and they know this, is to follow the glow sticks. Don't look at the, anything else, just follow the glow sticks. It's basically like breadcrumbs. It's going to lead you to where we are.
Right. What are some of your favorite mines that you've been into, the ones that you like to go back to or whatever?
Well, there's a little problem with that in that they're still open, and so we do not give the names or locations of open mines. It's not that we're, again, trying to be snooty or anything, but we're just trying to protect people who may not know exactly how to maneuver there. And also what we're trying to do is protect historic assets, because we had one mine up on the mountain a couple of years ago. Someone did a video blog. They filmed their exact trace for how to get to the mine, where the opening was, went in the mine, showed it, posted that on video on YouTube. 3 months later, the owner is out there with a track hoe closing this mine that has been open, for 150 years, and I had been exploring it for 40. And one day I get a phone call and say, "Hey man, you got to come over here. They're closing this thing up." And so that's another reason, because we don't want to attract people who are not going to respect it for its historic properties, but want to go out there and create a party zone, paint graffiti on it, start stealing stuff, breaking things like that. So any open mines, we will not, we will not give the name of it. Now, if it's something that has long since been closed or you could never get in, we'll tell you the names of some of those. But there's 4 or 5 in the Birmingham area that are probably my favorite, because I've grown up seeing them since a kid. But unfortunately, I can't tell you what they are.
I definitely understand where you're coming from, and I don't rightly blame you. I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
But
it's just basically, like I said, anywhere you throw a rock, you're going to hit a mine. So, and each mine is unique. There's a lot of the same layout, same characteristics. But when you come across a mining cart, workers' tools, stuff like that, mule shoe prints, it's just cool to see stuff like that. Pumps, shoes. I mean, it's just incredible.
And on top of that, there's a lot of mines that's around, especially in this area, that's undocumented.
That's true.
I know whenever Carbon Hill High School burned down several years ago, the community in the town wanted it built back right where it was. Well, lo and behold, there was a ton of underground mine shafts underneath where it was, and they couldn't build it back where it was. And
I'm sorry, I was laughing, but it's not because of Carbon Hill High School. I was laughing because it seems like that nowadays, when they get ready to build a high school, I know of at least 5 that are built on top of coal mines, and that was their, and one of them I lobbied for heavily. I said, look, guys, there's a concrete mine portal in the middle of your school property with the name of the mine and the dates. Keep it. Close the thing up, but keep the portal in your school. Right. What a great teaching tool that would be for the history of the people of that area. But they bulldozed it, buried it in the ground, and then built a school right on top of it. So that when you were saying they didn't want to build it because there's tunnels on there under it, that doesn't seem to be a problem anymore. They just, as a person that loves mines, every time you see an interstate interchange going up or something like that, you go, yep, they found another mine. That's where they're building it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
I've told a few friends of mine that if that New Madrid earthquake ever erupts again, this whole area is probably going to sink because of all the mine shafts and everything around here.
Absolutely.
There will be a little shifting. Yeah.
I just don't think people understand just how many mine shafts is around this area and how big mining was in general for this area.
Yeah. Oh, it's true. It's everywhere, except under downtown Birmingham. And that's where you have your limestone that's under the city of Birmingham, but it's hollow. All of those lime formations will eventually, somewhat, dang, Josh, I'm old. I can't think of the word. Not melt, but what it does when
erode.
Erode. That's it. See, I knew there was a word in there somewhere. It will eventually erode, and it will create sinkholes, and so you'll see these sinkholes popping up here and there. And then every time they try to build a building downtown in Birmingham, they dig down 60, 80 feet and they hit water because it's all stored in the hollow limestone under there. But between the limestone tunnels and things, caves down there, and all the mines, this whole county is filled up with tunnels.
And Shelby County is pretty well known for sinkholes, isn't it?
Absolutely,
yeah, there's a lot of limestone in Shelby County.
And there's a lot of coal in Shelby County too.
There is, especially around Montevallo, heading north up, towards West Blockton and Colinar and Piper and those areas. So of course, those are in Bibb County technically, but they're on that end of Shelby County.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I sure do appreciate y'all taking the time to come on the show.
Absolutely. We enjoyed it.
Before we leave, everybody, if you would, go to facebook.com/underground Birmingham and see what these guys are doing. If you're into this type of thing, give them a follow, check out their page and everything, and just leave them a comment and say Porch Matters sent you.
Josh does a great job doing some of our videos, and he posts things up on our YouTube page and things like that too. So there's a lot of neat things to see.
Anything else you'd like to plug?
No, hey,
Well,
I mean, we're
our book.
oh yeah. I guess
Plug away, sir.
Yeah.
Plug away.
No, well, we came out with a book a while back, and it's still out on the market. It's called Underground Birmingham, an image of Birmingham's iron ore mines. So it's mostly a pictorial type book. It's got about 165 photos in it with a brief history of the Birmingham mineral district in the beginning of it. But it's a pretty neat little book. It's online at our site. Josh will give you the exact link, but we have it on. You can find it on our link on Underground Birmingham, and order a copy there, and you can get a signed copy. And it's not too expensive.
Yeah, I think I think you get what you pay for. It's $23.99, and you can purchase it at undergroundbirmingham.com.
Okay. I'll be picking me up a copy of it here pretty soon.
Okay, cool.
Well, we need to come up to sit on your porch sometime and chat a while. We can sit at each end of the porch, and socially separate if necessary.
Brother, if y'all want to come up, feel free. I'll set up some chairs. I got a barbecue grill right over here next to me. I'll get a pork shoulder going. We'll just sit here and tell stories and smoke butts.
Heck yeah.
Smoke what?
Smoke butts.
Smoke. Well, I was wondering what kind of butts you're talking about. That meant something totally,
pork
totally
butts, sir.
different.
Pork butts.
Flashbacks. Okay.
Yes, sir.
No. Okay. Now I have to say a disclaimer, because I did not smoke dope during the 70s because I was the bus driver for the band and I had to stay sober. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That sounds like stories for another episode, sir.
Absolutely.
Guys, I appreciate y'all coming on. I really do.
You're welcome.
Buddy,
Thank you for having.
Big thanks to Jeff and Josh from Underground Birmingham for coming on the porch. Find them on Facebook and on YouTube. If you are new to the show and like what you hear, hit that like, subscribe, or follow button and download the episodes in our archives. If this show has been a positive addition to your life, please rate the show and leave a review. Won't take you but a minute, and it really would help the show. Find us on social media by typing in Porch Matters in the search bar. Word of mouth is still the best way of sharing. Please pick your favorite episode and share it with at least one person this week. There are a lot of people out there that have never heard of a podcast before. I sure would appreciate it. And I'll see you next time, right here on Porch Matters.